Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Joe Staszak along with my man Steve Kallas over here. Week 9 of the NFL season is upon us. The World Series is behind us. And Steve, how you doing today, my friend? We got a lot to get through.
All good, Joe. Great to be with you as always.
Well, let's see. Last weekend, if I would have told you that Cooper Rush would have beat Kirk Cousins in Kirk Cousins' building, and Trevor Simeon would have outdueled Tom Brady at home after Jameis Winston rips up his knee, and then Aaron Rodgers, a big game against Patrick Mahomes, who barely escaped the Giants, penalty, and not quite the magnitude of D Ford a few years ago, but a penalty helped him stay in the game. They eked one out. Big matchup, and then Aaron Rodgers. Let's start with him. He has COVID. He wasn't vaccinated, but he was immunized. If you go back to the sound, but I mean, it's become a mess. And he kind of doubled down yesterday, and he said, the rules. He doesn't see why they're necessary, so he hasn't really bought into some of the protocols. What do you think of the whole Aaron Rodgers? I was looking forward to that game. I got to be honest.
I think just another guy who outsmarts himself.
Yeah,
he's a smart guy, talented guy, thoughtful guy, but. It's idiocy. Although I'm a little surprised, and I know what you told me before the show, but I'm a little surprised. Now you have to ask if this comes up again. Did someone stick a needle in your arm and push it through with vaccine in it? Yes or no? But I agree with you. As you said, I feel the same way. If I asked you, so did you get vaccinated? And you said, yeah, I'm immunized. I would think that meant you got vaccinated.
I wouldn't question it. That's
right. He was playing semantics. He got away with it, of course, until he caught COVID. Then he didn't quite get away with it now, and he's missing at least one game because he actually got COVID. So he's going to have whatever he needs, 10 days and 2 negative tests, whatever the ruling is. But I think it's just stupid. And whatever you think of it, he put a lot of teammates, fans, family at risk, and it's not up to him as an NFL player to say, yeah, I don't really like those protocols. Yeah, I don't really agree with it. Yeah, maybe you should call up Kyrie Irving or something. But no, I'm not. But if Aaron Rodgers hadn't played all year, the Packers, we wouldn't even talk about the Packers.
Right
now, they got whomped the first game, been off the charts since. Now look. We have to show new respect to the backup quarterbacks after what we saw, and we didn't even mention Mike White, the
AFC
Offensive Player of the Week, the first quarterback since 1950 to throw for at least 400 yards and 3 TDs in his first start. And I watched that whole game. That was incredible. I'm sure you did too.
Yeah.
I think we both really like the Bengals, which shows you what we know. But it was like, seriously, all the names you mentioned before, Simeon, and even Geno Smith coming in, winning 31-7 against the Jags. You gotta, maybe there's not that huge. I always think there's a colossal difference between this guy and this guy, but that doesn't mean you can't beat Cooper Rush. And as you said, beat the Vikings. I kept going, man, it's Cooper to Cooper, right? Cooper Rush to Amari Cooper. A great catch by Cooper on the throw by Cooper. Touchdown Cooper from Cooper. You could have had a lot of fun with that, but I really mean that now. We understand it's not a one-man game, but we and everybody puts incredible, I still think correctly on the bigger picture, on the starter. But how many, we've seen 5 or 6 examples now this year. This isn't like an off thing. And don't forget, the Jets got whomped by the Colts the other day. But Mike White had to come out of the game. He was 7 for 11 for 95 yards and a touchdown the first time they had the ball. They went down the field like it was 11 against 7. And then even the backup quarterback,
Josh Johnson,
he threw for like 3 TDs. I mean,
They almost covered. They were down like 26 points in the fourth quarter.
You sent me that. And I guess it was unlike the Texans who did cover. They were down.
They did
38-0. They went for 2 on the last touchdown.
I did not know that.
I'm 95% sure they went for 2. And by the way, it was a good play because it cuts it to 16.
Right.
So you can, he wasn't doing it to cover.
Right.
But you cut it to 16 if 2 more miracles happen after a few miracles happen. But yeah, that's got to be the way. I was watching part of that game. Was 38-0. It was like, don't even go back to that game. And you didn't have to go back to it unless, I guess, if you bet.
Right.
But the same,
Incredible.
you said it, the same with the Jets, 45-16, 45-30, and they got the ball back.
They were
I think
down
it was-
deep. They're like the
Right.
12-yard line. The ball.
So these are all the reasons you don't gamble, Joe. These every
Right.
week. I understand the bad beats that Scott Van Pelt does. Those are great. But I wish he would just take the one or two real games, not some obscure
I know, right?
football game we never heard of. It's a bad
No one's
beat,
betting on, right?
but nobody really cares. But if you did, and I'm sure they did, I think I saw part of it. They did do the Texans. That's a bad beat. That might be the worst beat of the year in the NFL. 38-0. You turn your TVs off. Even if they score 3 touchdowns, they get 21.
Right.
But you didn't really think
You
it
didn't
through.
think
They
they
did
get-
the
right.
right thing to cut it to 16. And that was the end of the game. But that was the difference between covering and not covering. So again, that's why they call it gambling, and that's why we shouldn't do it.
You're so right. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Cleveland. You know, they've been kind of, I won't even say up and down. They've been mostly down this year. And LBJ, that was a blockbuster trade 3 years ago, going from the Giants. Never quite fit in there. Never, he was hurt a lot. And then his dad or whoever's Twitter account came out with, and the video, I mean, yeah, it does show that he's pretty open on a lot of these plays. I don't know the relationship between Baker Mayfield and LBJ, but he got released today. Well, your thoughts on that outright release?
Well, but I'm afraid that now it's more on his back now. The whole thing with the Giants at the end, it got ugly. They got rid of him. They got what they could get. And you could say, whose fault was it? Whose fault was it? He was proposing to the field goal kick.
Oh God!
In the head.
The train
It was
wreck.
all weird. It was in Kyrie Irving territory. But so he goes to Cleveland, and he got that serious injury, and now it's on him because you got the Giants and the Browns did outright release him, which is pretty incredible. And so I think it's now his problem. He's the problem now. It's not the Giants. It's not the Browns. Landry is like his best friend. And the other thing I'll just mention about OBJ, because he's an incredibly talented player, but people have said, and the couple of times I've watched him, is he doesn't have the explosiveness after coming back. It's kind of like the really quick NBA point guard who blows out his knee, and he comes back and he's not the really quick NBA point guard anymore. He's not then quite going to be like a top player. So you have the combination of the way he is. Look how open I am. I mean, that was so idiotic that his father did that. But, you're sticking it up for your kids, so we can all understand that. But, I think he's in trouble because it's a risk now in two ways. If you sign him, it's a risk, not financially, I guess, right? The Browns, because they released him, I think have to pay him. But it's a risk in the clubhouse, because now if things go really bad for him, it's not going to be his fault. It was the Giants' fault. It was the Browns' fault. It'll be the next team's fault. So do you want to be the next team? And the other thing is, quite frankly, how far has he come back? For example, after Tommy John surgery in baseball, the first 6 months to a year back, the first 10, 20, 30 starts, you're like, he'll be okay. He's getting better. He's getting better. And in baseball, it takes like a full year. But when you come back from his kind of injury, knees or Achilles, the non-contact injury, as they're now all called, and you appear to have lost your explosiveness, well, what makes OBJ? His explosiveness. So I think those are things to watch, and someone will sign him, of course.
Of course they are.
He's incredibly talented, but those to me are the two factors you have to worry about. You have to worry about money, really, but you have to worry about his effect in the locker room, and will he go south on the team if he's not catching 8 passes a game? And also, does he have the explosiveness to catch 8 passes a game? And to me, those are two open questions for him. So we'll just have to see what happens. But he's now, I don't want to say the troublemaker, but now he no longer gets the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I know.
After the Giants, and with some he did, with some he didn't. But you're not now getting it after the Browns. Now they're saying, fool me once, fool me twice. And, we'll see what happens, but he's a talented guy.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, but I do know that he seems to be open a lot. I wouldn't understand why Baker would, unless the plays are designed elsewhere. Why wouldn't you design? I mean, I know Jarvis Landry's great as a Brown, but Don't
Right.
you want to incorporate him more in the offense somehow?
Yeah, to me, the real problem is you can get a video, I'm going to guess, of anybody being
Yeah.
open live. But, the secondary question that, of course, his father won't answer. I don't know if Baker Mayfield or the coaching staff would is. So was he the second option on that play? Was he the third option on that play?
Right.
If he's the first option, then he doesn't throw it to him. He's a moron. So he probably isn't, in my opinion, the first option on all of those plays. But is he the second? Is he the third? Did he throw to his first option when OBJ was open a split second later? You know how that split second changes everything where everybody runs towards the ball?
Yeah.
So you'd have to see the all 22. You'd have to know what option he is in the progressions for Baker. And I'm not a big Baker Mayfield fan, but he's a good NFL quarterback. So I don't quite understand that. And I'll say it again. You understand the father protecting his son, but it's almost idiotic in terms of only giving us the specific views, not the context. And we have no idea what the context is.
I do agree with that. You're only seeing, you don't know what exactly happened on the play, so you can't really evaluate. I do get that. Kansas City Chiefs, again, we'll go back to this game because now they're a 7-point favorite. They were a half-point dog, or I think, or a point dog. I get it. Jordan Love playing his first game, but the Chiefs look bad. Like, they won the game. I get all that, but then you have to kind of look at the body of work against the Giants. And Giants have played. I mean, look, they should have beat Washington if the guy doesn't go offsides on the field goal early this season. Again, any given Sunday, you know what I say. Yeah. But they look bad. Turning to Travis Kelce's fumbling, their offensive line, which I thought was like their thing that they shored up. Mahomes is running for his life, making bad decisions, more interceptions. They got a break with the Giants going offsides there, and then an unsportsmanlike penalty that was, what's going on with the Chiefs, and can they right themselves against? Is this the thing the Packers need? I'm sure they're not wishing anyone gets hurt, but this could propel them because they do have a tough schedule the rest of the way.
Well, I'll say this about Mahomes after watching, and I've watched a lot of what he's done this year, and a lot of it was luck. Half his interceptions weren't tip balls and everything. But to me, he's just not Mahomes. He's not as athletic. Yeah, he can still scramble around, but he also gets caught in the pocket. Maybe they're doing, what everyone's saying. You play 2 deep safeties, cover 2. Don't give them the long ball. Make them dink and dunk, and that's not kind of their way. But to me, even Kelce disappeared last week. Maybe they doubled him all the time. Tyreek Hill was catching, 4-yard passes. Mahomes, to me, does not look as accurate and does not look as athletic. I don't know. Could it possibly be a toe thing? But when you watch him play, and of course, I watched that whole game. It was the Monday night game. I've watched him in the past. He just doesn't seem to be Mahomes. And if he's not Mahomes, they're in deep trouble. Kelce, not Kelce. When was the last time Kelce fumbled?
I've never seen that. I don't think so.
I don't know if they totally give up on sending Tyreek Hill deep, or maybe they send him deep and he's just covered because it's cover 2. But they've kind of found a way to play the Chiefs. And after watching the Giant game, I'm sorry, you look at the Chiefs' schedule, to me, they're lucky to make the playoffs. And I know that's a weird statement about the Chiefs. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl again. So what do I know? But watching them play and looking at their schedule, they're lucky they played the Giants. If they played somebody really good, they would have got killed. If they played somebody better than average, they would have got beat. And the Giants don't have Blake Martinez, their best defender, tackler. And the guy who took his place is the guy who got that stupid penalty. They also lost last week for the first time Jabril Peppers, their best DB.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a pretty weak defense, and they were all out to score 20 points. So I think there's something wrong. And, I did hear Andy Reid after the game, and Andy Reid was like, well, yeah, we've gone through a very tough 2 games. And, these things happen. Well, they don't happen to Patrick Mahomes until now.
Right.
I don't know if you could really look at something in the past where it's been this long for the interceptions, more this year than last year and maybe the last 2 years now. And again, a lot of tips, but that's football. And he's just not the same to me. And if he's just not the same for whatever reason, now, maybe he throws for 500 yards next week. You don't know with him. But they're not what they were last year, not even close. And so forget about them right now making the Super Bowl. I'm not sure that they make the playoffs. I haven't really looked at everybody else's record, but I looked at their schedule, and there's a lot of tough games coming for the Chiefs. And as for the Packers, Aaron Rodgers can say whatever he wants. He killed his own team. killed them.
That's
Can they
right.
win? I say they can win now because I don't know if Jordan Love is going to play like Mike White. I'm going to guess no. But
Right.
he's got a lot. He can play like Geno Smith or Trevor Simeon or all the other guys you mentioned. So I guess after the last few weeks, we will not automatically say, quarterback change. They have no chance because they have a chance, and we've seen that proven time and again now in the last few weeks. Very unusual. There should be some kind of Elias Sports Bureau stat. This is the first time in 43 years that 5 subs came in and won, or whatever the numbers are. There has to be some stat like that, but give these guys credit. And maybe, Mike White, whatever he did, he was kind of a dink and dunk guy at the beginning, and then they opened it up and he still made the throws. Good for him. Terrible, he got hurt, 7 for 11 for 95 yards. So you can say that was a freak game, but you don't know because, again, he went down the field against the Colts like it was 11 against 7, and then he got hurt. And then Johnson went down the field a bunch of times, and the Colts have a pretty good defense, So give your guy Carson Wentz credit for the comeback. And Frank Reich, God bless him, is still singing his praises. But he should. He still played, other than those weird couple of interceptions we saw. Weird. He's played great. So the Colts are still a factor. The Jets are weird. The Giants are weird. Neither of them is really good. What are the Jets going to do now when their number 2 super duper pick comes back when he's healthy, which I think is going to be not this week, but probably next week. Then you're not going to bring him back Sunday, Thursday, but I don't know what their situation is. And by the way, they showed Joe Flacco sitting on the sidelines.
I know. I saw that.
They got 4 quarterbacks, and Joe Flacco was number 4 on Thursday.
Super Bowl MVP.
Greatest
Couple of them are third string quarterbacks now.
Greatest contract ever for 4 really good games in a row because they were in the playoffs. God bless them.
11 touchdowns, no picks that year.
Right, but he said, I'm coming here to play, and he's 4 on the depth chart, or maybe 3, right, if you don't count injuries for Zach Wilson. But now he must be going, man, I thought I was just going to walk in and start. Who's Mike White?
Right, and then Mike White Johnson for 400 yards.
Right. So as weird as you say, AGS, any given Sunday or Thursday or Monday, whatever, this year is even weirder to me because of all these things we've seen in the last, whatever. The Jaguars are terrible, but Geno Smith was like 20 for 24 and they win, 31-7. The Eagles 44-6. What did Hurts throw for? He threw for nothing.
Okay.
He scored 44.
He pretty much stinks. But yes, they won 44-6. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because
I'm sure you are.
This is kind of my favorite game this week because I think the Eagles are terrible. I don't know if Vegas is on board with that. They do have 3 wins. It's not like they're an 0-8 Detroit team. So they have won 3 games. I'll give them that. Against the terrible game the Carolina Panthers played, and Sam Darnold was that much worse. And then who else did they beat? They beat the Detroit Lions, and they beat the Atlanta Falcons on game 1. They play the Chargers this week, who are coming off 2 losses, and one to the Patriots, who have seem like they're on the right track, the Patriots.
Absolutely.
But they're still the Chargers. I think they're an above average team, a playoff team, and they have Justin Herbert. 1.5, and that line hasn't moved. They're a 1.5 point favorite. The Chargers are over the Eagles, who I think are a very bad team, and I don't care where the game's played. What are your thoughts on this game?
This might be a Joe Staszak line, but I love the Chargers.
I love them.
They're coming off a bye.
Right.
And I'm glad you mentioned the Patriots because I think the Patriots turned their season around. Now, don't forget, the Patriots beat Herbert 45-0 last year.
Yeah, I remember.
He was the all this, all that, great. The Patriots destroyed him. And this time they beat him. And they held them to I saw a stat, they held them to 233 yards passing, a lot at the end of the game. And that was a bad game for Herbert. Don't forget, 2 interceptions, including the pick 6 that won the game by Phillips. Phillips had 2 interceptions. And I really think, I don't know if it was the Jet game, but definitely this game totally turned the season around for the Patriots. If they could have won one of those earlier games, they should have won. They lost 19-17 to Tom Brady. They lost 18-17 to Miami when Mac Jones, in the first game, Mac Jones led them down the field like Tom Brady, and then they had to fumble at the 20. They would have kicked the field goal and won the game. If they could have had one of those wins, they'd be 5-3, not 4-4. But now you look at it from the Patriots. I'll get back to the Chargers in a sec, but you look at it from the Patriots' perspective, which of course is my son's perspective, and they're 4-4. They're playing Carolina. Then they're playing the Browns, who are who knows what. And then I think it's some other easy game they have. I don't remember who, but they have a good chance to be 7-4. And what I'll say to you, if they could have won one of those games, you are what your record says you are, they'd be 8-3. If they can beat the Browns, they're going to both, catapult themselves into the playoff picture. So now when you talk about the Chargers, 2 bad games, a week off, they got to be chomping at the bit. I agree with you on the Eagles. These NFC East teams find a scrum way to stay in games. But the Chargers are flying across the country. That's always something. But I love the Chargers. And the only caveat is the Joe Staszak 1.5. Shouldn't they be 3 or 4 or 5?
Right. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, uh-oh. But I'm sorry. I know what the Eagles are. They're terrible.
So I think I'm totally with you on the Chargers. I'm totally with you on the Eagles. But the answer, if you're looking at the other side, hey, Steve and Joe, they put up 44 last week. They can run the ball, I guess, because their quarterback, what did he throw for? It was like 100 and something yards. It was terrible. So no, I think that's pretty much my best bet this week, and I assume yours as well. But if the Eagles lose 21-20, you're going to be here next week going, well, 1.5, we should have known.
We should have done it. It's that rule I don't go against. And then I did. I actually went with the rule last week, and I'll get to that in a second, and it lost, and it shouldn't have lost. But I'll talk about that in a second. Let's do picks right now. How'd you make out last week? Okay. What do you got this week?
Well, 2-2 again. I'm thinking of stopping until the playoffs, but that's a different story. We'll wait till then. I will say this, though, and we talked about it last year, kind of because of COVID. And, when we were doing shows on Tuesday as opposed to Friday or Saturday, much harder to pick. But last year was a weird year. This year, from, in my view, a betting perspective, you like the Bengals by 10, they lose outright. Or the Chiefs, whatever they were favored by, I thought we're lucky to win. I'll say it again, they're lucky they were playing the Giants.
Yes.
Because any slightly better than average team would have easily beat them. A good team would have crushed them.
Yes.
But I'll go for 3 more. You got my first one, the Chargers, 1.5 at the Eagles. I still think it's a misprint. I read it every day this week. Like you said, it hasn't moved, which is also fascinating.
Right? Hasn't moved.
But I think they're going to bounce back again with a bye week. The other thing, one more thing about the Patriots, they're the only team in the NFL that are playing 3 teams off a bye week. You saw what they did to the Jets when the Jets had a bye. They beat the Chargers in LA when, I don't know, did the Chargers have a bye or they just, no, the Chargers did have a bye. I take that back.
They're not coming off the Ravens loss.
They had a bye the week before and the Patriots beat them. But I still think now the Chargers, I know you picked them to be in the Super Bowl. I think they still have a big chance. Herbert is not a guy. I think Belichick's just, because he can do this, right? The quarterbacks. Belichick just messes you up. Yeah. I don't care if you have a month to prepare for Belichick. He only needs 6 days to prepare for you. Right. And that's his history. And this is against first and second year quarterbacks. His numbers are off the charts. So I stand corrected. I'll correct myself. The Chargers had to bye the week before, but the Patriots have now beaten 2 teams off a bye. You might tell me the Jets don't count, but then they beat the Jets beat the Bengals, so they do count. But Mac Jones is getting better every game. It would be great if the Patriots got OBJ, if he could go into the Patriot way, because they desperately need it. Aguilar is slightly better than average. He's not Aguilar the Raider. He's not Aguilar the Eagle. He's somewhere in between. And so I do like, I like New England 3.5 at Carolina. This is all kind of based on stuff with the Chargers and how the Eagles are playing. But I think New England flipped the switch now, not because they scored 54 on the Jets, but because they beat the Chargers in San Diego with a pick 6. And Belichick did enough, as he does, did enough to mess Herbert up, not like last year, 45-0. But like this year, 27-4 and 27-24. The interesting thing to me is the Patriots had to fly out to LA 2 years in a row. How does that even work?
That's weird. Yeah.
But give them credit. They got the job done. So I do like the Chargers at Philly 1.5. New England at Carolina, 3.5. I think that's kind of what it should be. There's a question, is McCaffrey going to play? But Rule has already announced even if he does play, he's not going to play full. Coming off a hamstring, if there's any question to me, you got to give him one more week.
Got to give him another week. He'll re-injure that and be out for another.
I thought McCaffrey was going to play that 1 week when they said he was going to play.
Against the Eagles.
And he didn't. Of course, I love Carolina, and I won't even, no chance I'll pick Carolina. I don't care who they're playing. They can play the Jags in a pick'em game, and I ain't picking them. and finally, I'll go. And I'm a little on the fence on this one. Again, I think this is a very tough week, but I'm going to take the Ravens -6 in Minnesota because they have Cousins, they have Cook, they have our guy Jefferson, they have Thielen. They always lose. Like last year as well, we pick them and pick them. We love Kirk Cousins. Don't and lose. But I think the Ravens now, they're coming off a bye, and they need a bye. They needed a bye. So, I was thinking, I'll just give you one more. I was thinking about picking Vegas over the Giants. I'm not, only because of the Henry Ruggs thing, which we should just mention briefly. Guy's driving 156 miles an hour, plows into some poor person in a car from behind.
23-year-old girl.
Thing immediately goes into flames and she dies. I mean, that's horrific. And this guy's going to do, I think we talked about it off the air, this guy's going to do some time.
He is.
This is not, you BS your way out of it and get probation. This is, you're going to jail. And it doesn't matter, you pay the family whatever in a civil suit. I don't see there's any way he doesn't. So I kind of like Vegas, but they're coming to New York. The Giants are a hard team to gauge. Which Daniel Jones would it be? That kind of stuff. So I stayed away from that one, but it's a horrific thing. And Ruggs is going to do something. But again, how smart do you have to be not to driving 156? And if somehow you're driving 156, you should kind of see a car in front of you.
I can't believe that. That's
terrible.
It's like the worst thing I've ever heard. Okay, well, I'll get to the Vegas game in a second. I 0-3 last week, but I had the Lions. That didn't work out. They only lost by 38. I took the Colts, who were a favorite over the Titans. It was the rule. I was like, that's a screwy line. So just because I didn't actually put money on it, I'm going to take the Colts here. Up 14-0, and then you saw the interception in the end zone, and then one over. So the Titans won that game, and then I took I didn't even remember, but both these lost. The Bengals or the Bucks. I took Brady, or I took the Bengals, and So anyway, 0-3. I love the Chargers, as we mentioned. You don't get that line, but I love the Chargers. Maybe people are thinking, well, maybe the Eagles aren't as okay. We'll see. Cardinals. Am I missing something? Why are the Cardinals getting points? I mean, they're a one-loss team. I know it's a division game. I don't believe in Frisco that much, and I know they beat the Bears and they cover, but I'm taking the points there with the Cards. I think they're a better team. I could be wrong. Could be one of those lines. Unless the whole team's out with COVID, I don't know about it. That's why I'm asking you, because it just seemed a little weird. And I like the Raiders. If I have to pick another game, I like their squad. You're right. The Giants, you don't know. They're a little up and down. They can play lights out. They still have a lot of injuries. There's the Henry Ruggs thing. I just like the way Derek Carr's playing. I like the way they're playing for their interim coach. So I'll
and oh, by the way, I'm sure they're getting the tight end back, Waller.
They're getting Waller back.
He's the most underrated guy in the NFL. He might be the best tight end in the NFL.
Nobody knows. Seriously, right? He's phenomenal. And I think Zach Ertz can help the Cards there. So those are my picks. Take up what they're worth. Let's talk a little. Let's move into baseball a little bit. A few days ago it happened. I know people move on from baseball quickly, but you were right. Great call by you. The Braves had that mojo, and despite their injuries, Acuna Jr. goes out. Charlie Morton goes out after a freak broken fibula. I mean, they shut out the Houston in Game 6 with their pitching. They're not like it's not like the four aces, and they just pitched really well. And 7-0 in the final game, and they deserve a lot of credit. They deserve it, and so do you. Good job, man.
And so much there, but you're right. People just kind of move on from that. But Soler, the MVP, and I told you I did a podcast with the Cleveland boys, and Rick Morris, our buddy Rick Morris, and I picked the Braves in 6. Ken picked the Braves in 7, but he said, "Oh yeah, I'm going outside the box for the MVP. I'll pick Jorge Soler." And I'm like off the air. I'm like, the guy had COVID. He missed virtually the whole Dodgers series. He got one at bat in the last 2 games. What'd you do? And I just did one like a recap, and I said, "What'd you do?" And he said, "Yeah, it was dumb luck." Okay, but Soler hit a leadoff home run. First guy ever to hit a leadoff home run. He hit a pinch hit home run. That was huge. That's the one after Dansby Swanson tied up the game. Soler came out and hit a pinch hit home run that maybe could have been caught. It was kind of interesting. They had the big guy in left field, Alvarez, and he looked to me like if he was a really good outfielder, he could have gone to the wall. It was a line drive. I thought he could have caught it. But whatever. And then, of course, he hit the big 3-run homer, which I was saying on the thing I did in Cleveland with these guys. If you watch that at bat, the beauty of baseball to me is there's such individual moments. And that at bat, Garcia, who was starting on 3 days rest, this is in game 6, he was throwing Soler down and away, sliders, breaking balls, fastball, everything away. He was fouling them off. 8th pitch of the at bat, he threw the same hook, kind of over the middle of the plate or even in a little. And the guy, he hit it out of the ballpark.
A mile.
Which doesn't happen much in Houston.
Mile.
And so he deserved the MVP. The other thing I wanted to say is you're right about Morton. When I posted, it was interesting because I hate the Astros because they're cheaters.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I like Dusty Baker. If they had won, the only good thing you could say is Dusty Baker.
Dusty Baker.
But I'm glad they lost. I'm sorry, Dusty. I'm glad and they kind of it was Joe Buck. Oh yeah, they put 2017 behind them. Yeah, but the rest of the world hasn't.
No, it has not.
These guys are going to be to some degree the 1919 Black Sox.
Yeah.
They didn't throw the game; they cheated to win.
Right.
That doesn't make you any better as a cheater.
Right.
So the other thing I wanted to say is in the last game, Max Fried, who I love, best curveball, made a terrible play on that thing with Brantley. Where Brantley stepped on his ankle. I don't even know how he could walk after that. But he threw 6 shutout innings in game 6 of the World Series. Game 6. So that means you had 12 starters, Joe. The 6 innings was the longest outing for any starting pitcher in the World Series.
Wow.
Now, we knew we were going that way.
Right.
I can't believe we got there.
Wow. That's amazing.
Over the span of a few years, it's totally become who needs a starting pitcher? They started a guy, Dylan Lee. The Braves started a guy, Dylan Lee, lasted 4 batters. It was his first start ever.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
In the World Series. And that's the game, by the way, I thought that was the turning point of the game because how could they win that game? But they won that game on the Swanson and Soler back-to-back homers, Soler pinch hitting. And they won that game 3-2. And then I got to give Swanson credit too because it was Soler and Swanson. Soler hit the 3-run homer to make it 3-0. And then Swanson, an inning or two later, hit a 2-run homer to make it 5-0. And I'm not saying if you're a Braves fan, you could relax because they had the grand slam the day before in game 5, right? They were up 4-0 in the first, and Houston came back and won. So it's a fascinating series. All credit to the Braves. Alex Anthopoulos, I got to say his name because he's Greek, And but he picked up those 4 guys: Soler, Duval, Rosario. Boy, who am I forgetting now? I don't remember, but all 4 of them played great. Oh, Jock Peterson.
Yeah.
He got all 4 of them on the trade deadline right before.
It was a tremendous job.
They lost Ozuna, domestic violence. He was gone a long time. They lost Acuna, the best player on their team, by 10 miles. They lost Sorokin, the pitcher. They lost Martin after game 1, and they still won the World Series. That's incredible. And we got to say Snitker's name, Brian Snitker, because Hank Aaron hired him like 40 years ago or something. And this guy's a lifer in baseball, lifer in the Braves organization, and so humble, never thought I'd be here. He had the guts to take out, he's not an analytics guy, I don't think, but he had the guts to take out Ian Anderson with the 5-inning no-hitter, 76 pitches, and everybody was good. Now, it could have blown up in his face, but the final thing I'll say about the World Series, and we talked about it before, those 3 lefty relievers, I don't know the numbers in this series, but the Dodgers were 5 for 42 against them with like 25 strikeouts.
Wow.
Those 3 lefties, Smith is the closer, along with Luke Jackson, who was terrible against the Dodgers, the one righty. Those guys were lights out. And that's why if I had to pick one thing, I wouldn't pick Soler. I certainly wouldn't pick starting pitcher. I would say those 4 relievers. And this is the world we're in now, Joe. This might be true forever going forward. But those 4 relievers pitching great. Luke Jackson pitched terrible against the Dodgers. They almost lost. but those three lefties were murder against the Dodgers and murder in the World Series. And I think the bullpen collectively, if you could give an MVP to the Braves bullpen, that's who I would have picked. But Soler was a perfect pick. Only guy ever to hit a leadoff homer and a pinch hit homer in the same World Series, and then hit the winning homer in the Game 6. So he was hands down the MVP and totally deserved it.
Kudos to Rosario too. Had like 14 hits in the league championship series. It's unheard of, but
Yeah, that's right.
Congratulations to the Braves. Good stuff, buddy. Before we end, I've got to throw in a little Ben Simmons talk. Still hasn't played. I reached out to my friend D. Lynham, who's Sixers royalty, and I said, D, what do you think of this? I just said on my podcast, never plays again because he could play the mental card. Now he's been getting fined. He almost got fined like almost $350,000 to $400,000. He's like kind of refusing help. I'm of the minority that I do think he has some mental issues. I saw them in the playoffs. I don't know if he can get over them. You know what I mean? Like no one's ever shot 34% from the line of the playoffs. Ever. Giving up like I do think he's got. I don't want to be like the Steve Sachs, yips or. I don't know what he has, but I do think he's got something. I don't know the timing of it coming back to the Sixers and then announcing it. I don't know what to make of it. But since mental health isn't actually a tangible injury, you can kind of almost stretch it out. I don't know how it works or what the parameters and boundaries are on it. But what are your thoughts?
Well, we talked about this way back when it happened. The whole Osaka thing in tennis. Now she didn't want to take questions. You'll recall. And then everybody, all the majors said, well, if you're not going to take questions after press conferences, you can't play. But I totally supported her. She clearly had, she's the one when she beat Serena. Serena was complaining about everything and then didn't want to take away. But Osaka was crying after she won a major. And I give her all the credit in the world. But when we talked about it at the time, which was a very minority opinion, this is going to open the door. This is going to open the door for the high school kid who's too afraid to start against the best team in the big game. Yeah, I'm just not mentally ready. And it also now has there's a lot of unintended consequences. It's all good if it's legit. Kevin Love has talked about it. Lots of other people have talked about it, and good for them. It's a major issue today, Joe. But it's also going to give you what I'll call the Ben Simmons excuse.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm not mentally ready to play a regular season game on a Tuesday night against a terrible team in November or October. So I'm afraid this has now opened the door. If you want to bail, and he wants to bail, now the GM has already come out and said, well, this could be a 4-year issue. Because now they're starting to take the money away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't analogize it at all to Kyrie losing all the money. I think the Nets now have to pay him because the Nets are borrowing him from road games.
Yes.
I think the Nets have to play him. So he's going to make 15, 17 million, which is another joke. But Ben Simmons, if they can find him every game, 360,000 a game, by the way, Joe, 360.
Wow.
Again, if you can go back 40, 50, 80 years, maybe when our parents were little, if you heard this conversation, they go, what's wrong with these guys? 360,000 for one game or for 4 years or for 8 years? Mickey Mantle made 100. Well, you know the number. So
Gordie Howe got a jacket to sign a signing bonus.
I think the problem, and I don't call it the Osaka problem. She was right. She should do what's best for her. And, especially in individual sport, it's very tough mentally. But again, hers wasn't about actually playing tennis. Maybe it eventually became where she was going to take some time off. It was about not answering questions. And you know how these press conferences can be. And I guess they can be as tough on tennis players as they are on basketball, baseball, football players. But I'll say it again, and I said it back then, this could be an excuse. Not that she needed an excuse. She didn't. She's legit. And lots of people are legit. There's a lot of mental health issues, especially with some athletes. But now it can be Ben Simmons. Oh, hi, Ben, you can't play against the worst team in the NBA next Wednesday at home? Well, on the road, he probably doesn't want to play at home at this point.
Never.
But I think it's very weak. He's like other guys who are trying to force a trade, where the other guys had the juice, Harden, Westbrook. Yeah. Other guys have had the juice, and I guess maybe Simmons thought he had the juice. But then when Maury made that comment, right, this could be a 4-year problem. He's got 4 years, 147 million left. on his contract. Now, do I think the 76ers are going to sit for 4 years? Of course not. But he's trying to tell Ben, we're not paying you anything.
Right.
We're not paying you now. We're not paying you in November or December. You better come back and play because I can't get anything for you because, well, I can't get what I think
Right.
you're worth to us and to the league. You are a star and maybe the best defender, probably the best all-around defender in the NBA. But you put yourself in the bind. I would have thought he'd come back for 10 games, play his ass off, and then they'd get a little more for him. They're not going to get a superstar for Ben Simmons.
No.
You hope to get a couple of number ones and maybe a really good player. I don't know what the talk is. And also you got to wonder, are other people interested? Can this guy shoot a 12-foot jump shot?
Right.
Really?
Would you be? I mean, yeah, there's some things he brings to the table, but there's some.
Will he dunk in a major playoff game where if you dunk, you probably win the game?
Like, what if his confidence goes out the door in the third quarter or something? And yeah, it's
right when he misses 5 of his first 6 foul shots.
Yeah.
Which he will.
Yeah.
So it's a very sad situation. I know the 76ers have won 5 in a row, but big picture, they're not going anywhere without Ben Simmons. Or if they can get rid of him and get a really good, they're not going to get a superstar. But if they can get a really good player, maybe it's going to put more pressure on Embiid. Can he stay healthy? You know, the usual story down there. But because of Ben Simmons, and maybe even before this year, you'll tell me the trust the process didn't quite work out as well as everybody in Philly had hoped.
Did not, unfortunately. Hey, good news on a similar situation. Simone Biles was in Philly last night performing they're on tour. The gymnastics team did really well. So it looks like she's back and she's in good shape and good health. I have some video of her that my daughter shot.
It's good that you say that because she's the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Mental health reasons, all legit. To her total credit, came back at the end, won a medal, incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how great she laps the field.
Yeah.
But she's healthy and everything's good and she's on her game and into it. But yes, she's another one. Perfect excuse. We fully supported it. But again, I think we spoke about it with her too. The caveat is, what about the 2, 5, 10, 50,000 people who are now going to use the mental health approach when it's not really mental health, they're afraid.
Right. Sets a bad precedent, possibly.
I'm not quite ready. I am not against it, but it's going to be hard, I think, because of what you said before, to really legitimately know. Can Ben Simmons?
It's not a tangible end. It's not a broken bone. Yeah.
Can Ben Simmons really not play in a NBA game now? Let him play road games.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens because I can't believe it's going to last years. It might last. It's already lasted weeks in the season. Now they're finding him $360 a game. I don't know. Does that mean they were paying him before, Joe? I don't even know. But he's not getting paid anymore, and that might maybe change his mind.
I'm just wondering, I'll just say this, that even if he does go to another team, is the basketball part still? I mean, I know he doesn't want to play in Philly because of what happened, but what if he's still not I might be, again, I'm not him, but if I played like that, I mean, you know, a lot of guys can forget about it and come back. I don't know if he's mentally strong enough, even with another team. So we shall see. Maybe that's why other teams might stay away from him. Great job as usual, bro. We got to go. You can check out Steve's stuff on his Facebook forum page at Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas. You can also check out his videos, WestchesterCountyPost.com on YouTube. This podcast on YouTube every week. We tape usually Friday mornings. We're taping Saturday afternoon right now. And you can follow me on Twitter at Joe Staszak 4799. Great stuff as usual, Steven. And enjoy the games. We'll talk to you next week.
Always a pleasure, Joe.
You too. Thanks, folks. Enjoy your games, and we will see you in a few days. Take care.